Welcome to the home of the DIY movement, where we build stuff and paint things.
Hey big fella, what are you working on today? It looks like another messed up fender.
That's right, Junior. Today it's Bobby's driver's side fender. I'm going to block sand it with 180 grit sunlight paper. We'll be using the black diamonds along with some other sanding blocks. Would you like to learn?
Well, yes, I would. What does block sanding mean?
Block sanding means that you use a sanding block to sand the panel flat. Here, look at some of the dents and waves on the fender. You want to sand the panel flat, not smooth. There is a difference between flat and smooth. He'll show you.
Is the fender already painted? It looks like it's painted black.
No, Junior. Right now the fender is in epoxy primer. It's what I call an epoxy sandwich. We took all the old paint off of the fender. Then we sprayed it with epoxy primer. Then we did body work on the fender. Then we spray it with more epoxy primer, creating an epoxy sandwich with body filler in between layers of epoxy.
Me sandwich. This is making me hungry.
You see, Junior, I am using the sand block to sand areas flat. If you don't use a sanding block and only use your hand, then you will have a wavy panel. It will not be flat, and then you will have those haters pointing at your fender, and you don't want that.
Big fella, why would a hater point at my fender?
Oh, many reasons, Junior, but the main reason is because you did it yourself while they paid someone a lot of money. When you do things yourself, you become a craftsman, a perfectionist, a master. Here I am using the black diamond block to sand the side of the fender. There is a low spot towards the end. You can see it. I can also feel it with my hand. This is where it needs more body filler. I think I will use the dolphin glaze. The dolphin glaze works good to level out minor low spots or imperfections. Here I am still using the black diamond sanding block. One thing you want to know is that the area is very low. Do not have to be perfect. They have to be nice, but not perfect. We want the big areas you see as close to perfect as possible. That is where we will spend our time.
This looks like a messy job, but it doesn't look that hard.
It's not hard at all. If you look, you can see an area that has some yellow showing. That is previous body filler that I have now made flat. If I did not use a block and just used my hand, that area would not be flat. It will look like a wavy when the fender is painted.
How many times are you going to sand this fender, big fella? And do you sand it by hand every time, or do you use a machine?
This is the second time sanding this fender. I will sand it 2 more times before painting it, so a total of sanding it 4 times before paint. For the best results, you want to sand it by hand, not a machine.
4 times. That is a lot of sanding. When they painted my dad's car, they only sanded it once and it doesn't look that good. He paid the painter a lot of money too.
Yes, Junior, you see sometimes when you take a car to a paint shop, they will want to charge you a lot of money just because of the type of car it is. They will even charge more money for a convertible when it doesn't even have a roof. And sometimes when you take a car to a shop for a paint job, they will take months, sometimes years to finish. If they ever finish, they will park your car outside in the rain. This is why it's important to learn to do things yourself.
Yeah, the guy that painted my dad's car, they had the car for 3 years after he dropped it off. They promised my dad that it would only take them 3 months.
Junior, if I had $1 for every time someone told me that same story, I would be rich. I would not have to sand fenders in 95-degree heat. Remember the dolphin glaze I said earlier? Here I am applying it. It is a very light coat. I will also sand this with 180 grit. But first I will apply dry guide coat. It is a black powder. You apply it to the area you are going to sand. It will help you see imperfections and let you know when the dent has been removed.
You should be wearing gloves instead of smearing that chicken grease all over the fender from your hands.
Hey lady, you should mind your business. I am teaching Junior how to sand the fender. Hey Junior, remember those haters I told you about?
Yes, she must not like chicken. Who doesn't eat like chicken? Well, big fella, it looks like you are almost done sanding the fender. I have already learned something new by watching you sand. What's next?
Next I will blow the fender off using a shop rag and air. This will help more some of the heavy dust from sanding. Then we will get ready to spray more epoxy primer. Now it's time to assemble the spray gun. I will be using a 1.3 tip gun to spray the epoxy primer. I will also mix up about 12 ounces of epoxy primer. That is 6 ounces of epoxy and 6 ounces of activator. The activator will make the epoxy dry. If you do not use activator, it will never dry.
That sounds easy. 6 ounces epoxy, 6 ounces activator. That should be enough for 2 coats of epoxy on this fender.
Now, I am cleaning the fender with a product called Wax and Grease Remover. This will remove the chicken grease that woman was barking about. You can also use glass cleaner. You don't want to use soap and water, but glass cleaner is good to use. I like to clean it at least 2 times, sometimes 3 or 4 times. You want to clean it until your shop rag is no longer dirty after wiping the fender. I wish they made a cleaner that could clean away those haters. Now I am blowing off the fender with air. This will help make sure the wax and grease remover is all gone. This is a very important stage in the process. You want to wait a few minutes after blowing it off too, to make sure it is all gone.
That makes sense, big fella. You are really helping me learn the process.
Very good, Junior. Get ready because this is the part we really save some money. Spraying the epoxy primer. We're not that worried about lint or dust, because remember, I told you we were going to sand it to more times after. At this stage we just want to apply the epoxy evening, and completely. We want to avoid having any runs. I like to set my gun to about 25 psi for the air, and I unscrew the fluid screw to full turns from close. Like how I spray the epoxy, because next time, you will do it.
I want to spray it next time, big fella.
The final step for today's lesson is to clean the gun. You must clean the gun after every use. If you do not clean the gun, you will ruin the gun. But if you clean it every time, the gun will last a long time. I am using a product called lacquer thinner or paint thinner. I am also using a small brush kit that I bought from Amazon for about $15. You want to take the gun apart just like I'm doing and clean the gun and wipe it down. When I put the gun together, I put some lacquer thinner through the gun and pull the trigger. This helps flush it out. The gun is now ready to use next time.
Thank you for the tip there, big fella.
It's now time to admire our work from today. This fender will have a show quality paint job after sanding it to more times.
Wow, it looks nice already. Sanding it to more times means it will be twice as nice when it's done. Thank you for the lesson, Mr. Lonestar, big fella.
If you found this video helpful, take some time to subscribe to the channel. All we do is teach people to save money.